Hey, what's the matter, you?
So I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've actually even a little bit more than just thinking about it. I actually had to recently spend time and uh, reburn all my CDs. I'm kind of old school in a lot of things, maybe because I'm now 60. But one of the things I'm old school in is that I still like physical CDs. I want to own my music. Um, as well as I still believe in the album concept. So we're gonna talk more about that, of course. Uh, but this is like a few of the other ones I've done. This will be a series. This is not going to be a single topic. The series name is going to be Chasing the Muse, and the Muses are goddesses or in Greek mythology, and excuse me,
Yes.
they represent all of the art, all of the things with the creative, requiring creativity, um, requiring innovation, requiring deep understanding. Go ahead. Sorry. Oh, I thought somebody said something. So the muses are something that many artists have talked about, as in they were they were following their muse, chasing their muse. So this is going to be a series on this relating to all the various aspects of it. I actually broaden it to chasing the spark of creativity, chasing excellence, chasing divinity. Um, and one aspect of that, which we're going to talk about today, is how does that relate to music? Um, so this talk is it's a pretty short talk. It's only about 7 slides. It's called "Becoming a Music Connoisseur." But really, it's about, what is understanding what is special about music for you. Why is it that music inflames us and inspires us? Why is it become sort of like your soundtrack of your life, where certain songs will stick with you for years and years? Uh, but I do think of it also as more than just the moment. In other words, it's part of a broader pattern. Um, so, and I've been pretty serious about this even since high school. In fact, this drawing here was done around high school. I have a bunch of drawings you'll see throughout this presentation. I even used to paint jean jackets, which I'm upset that I don't have any photographs of the jean jackets that I painted, because I painted quite a few of them, mostly album covers. So can you guys, we'll do a pop quiz here. You guys know who this is
Thanks.
in the diagram, in the picture?
The sign.
Say
Isn't
again.
Prince, isn't Prince's new name the sign or some shit?
It's not Prince.
I have a
It's
lot of
Prince.
people confusing with that. It is not Prince. It's before Prince.
Oh,
Jim
then
Morrison.
it's
Can you hear
Morrison.
me?
Oh, it looks like Prince though too. I see what you're
It's
saying though. It could be Morrison too. All right.
it is Jim Morrison. Break on through the other side's a little bit of a clue. Uh, but yeah, so it is Jim Morrison. But that's, I have heard that before, Christian. So don't feel bad. I've
I
heard.
didn't even read that the break on through because that's a big hint right there. But I totally didn't read that.
So, why does music matter? The picture on the right, if you're curious, is one of the photographs from Beatlemania. Of course, the Fab Four, the Beatles. A very cute song. In fact, this does go into this a little bit, because I do think when certain things inspire you so much, like great music, you should share them. And I remember my son Gregory coming home one day from elementary school. I don't remember if it was third grade or fourth grade. He's like, "Dad," he's like all excited. He's like dumbfounded. "Dad, you won't believe this. We were talking about music. They don't even know who the Beatles are. They don't know any good music." It's like, so of course I tried to educate him, and the Beatles and Rolling Stones and all the great ones. ELO, CJ loved Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So anyway, in fact, I also took the kids to their first concerts. I took CJ. Let's see, we saw Coldplay. I took Gregory. Gregory I took to a couple things, but one was John Mayer. I took Samantha to Fleetwood Mac. That was not her first concert, but I did take her to Fleetwood Mac. I also took her to Dolly Parton. So, I mean, of course, as you can see here, you know, music matters a lot. I know I'm preaching a little bit to the choir here, but I kind of want us in this brief talk to kind of just think about why, to try to dig a little bit deeper, because I do think music does hit you on many levels. Now, some songs don't. Some songs are sort of shallow, blah blah blah. You get it. It's got one message. But there is a lot of music that is deeper than that. So let's see a few of the greatest hits that touched us. These are not nearly all of them, but some of them are telling, right? But of course it does. It makes you realize that there is more to just the song. It's not just the beat, not just the lyrics, it's not just a cool riff. It's all of that and more. Songs can capture the zeitgeist of a culture. Songs can capture your own personal zeitgeist or gestalt of what's going on in your life at the moment. So songs have have that kind of power to capture the perfect emotion at the perfect time. You know, it's funny. I like Leonard Cohen's. I love this part from Leonard Cohen's. It said, "I heard there was a secret chord that David played and pleased the Lord." Almost like there is a secret set of music, a secret set of chords, a secret thing that you could play that was pleasing to everybody, or that ignites everybody. Um, a lot of people will take quotes like this, like "Night Moves," Bob Seger, "Points all our own, sitting way up high." You know, "Night Moves" captured that perfect teenage groping together, sort of kids exploring sexually. That's what it's about. But how that, of course, can linger with you for decades and for your entire life. Um, or "Tears for Fears," "Everybody Wants to Rule the World," another very popular song.
Yeah.
So obviously, again, people will have in their head the soundtrack of their life, key songs at key moments in your life that mean something to you throughout your life, and that's a pretty magical thing. It's why so many people want to be musicians, and even if you're not a musician, you know, you admire them, you respect them, you go to their concerts, you buy all their albums. So speaking of albums, I recently burned all, as I said, I do CDs. So if I bring up my iTunes library here, um, you know, you'll see this is just some of the albums. Let's see, I think there's a way to, hold on a second. Just go to status bar. So you'll see, and when I do the status bar here, I can look at. See, it's supposed to. Hold on a second. It's supposed to tell me how much albums.
It says 804 albums.
Yeah, I'm sorry, right there. That's what I wanted to show you. So yeah, so I have quite a bit of albums. So I definitely take collecting music, you know, very seriously. For some of the bands, obviously, like here, the Beatles, I do have all of them. And if I don't have all of them, especially on the bands I really want, I will get all of them. So anyway, I recently did that. I burned my album. So this will kind of give you some statistics. Obviously, you can pull in, you can export your library as an XML document, and then you can kind of analyze it. So he is starting to do a little bit of that, where analyzing it in terms of
Genre.
analyzing in terms of genre here and in terms of the decades. And you can see, I also, as I said here, this is just one shelf. I have another whole shelf filled with CDs, um, and obviously this is iTunes. All right, quick pop quiz. Obviously, there's a little bit of a cheat here, but you guys recognize this guy, right?
Yeah.
What's his first name?
Jim.
Jimi Hendrix. Yeah. What's one of his songs you would say he's most famous for? I don't know if he played this one at Woodstock. I think he did. Would be Purple Haze, right? Certainly it's in a bunch of movies too.
Didn't he do the Star Spangled Banner?
Yes, he did. I don't know if he did that at Woodstock. He may have done that at Woodstock. He certainly was there. So, my musical compass. What are the things that I look for in the things that I want to listen to? If, in fact, some of this is from ChatGPT, kind of analyzing my library. As you can see there, it's almost 1,000 albums or 800 albums. It will be more. A few of the ones I just bought that I haven't burned in yet, which kind of relate to this. "Thick as a Brick" by Jethro Tull. Actually, this one's similar too, Tommy. So just take these two. What's similar about these is that, again, there are certain albums that are what's called a concept album, where you have to have the whole album. Some of the most famous ones, of course, would be like Pink Floyd. The Decemberists have a really great concept album called The Hazards of Love. So it's usually, you could look at a certain time in an artist's life where they try to expand beyond, they're figuring out themselves, they're figuring out how to write songs, and they're also, and they want to kind of put together a cohesive statement on something. And that usually is what's called a concept album.
With the Yellow Submarine, something like that? Is that like the Beatles?
Well, that is a good point. So Beatles definitely have done concept albums, like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is one of the first key concept albums, right? The whole album has a theme that they stick to throughout the whole album. And sometimes
the Yellow Submarine, is the Yellow Submarine in that one? Oh, is that what it comes from?
I think the Yellow Submarine is actually in Magical Mystery Tour, but in other words, that was part of, like, if you saw the movie Sgt. Pepper's, I think there was a movie, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yellow Submarine was definitely in that movie. So it was probably around that time. But the Beatles were definitely, they hit a point where they were experimenting. And that was a big part of that. Experimenting with how to express different concepts, experimenting with different styles of music. So that's kind of getting to this part about songcraft.
Some LSD also.
Well, I don't know about that. But
yeah,
I do think songcraft to me is very important. In other words, songcraft basically means that they focus on strong melodies, strong lyrics, an intricate structure to the music. So it's like, what makes a great song? And it's not just always the songs that are hits. It usually is the songs that are hits for a very long time. So if you, again, some of the ones here, in fact, Bob Dylan wrote great songs. Eagles, Hotel California. Obviously, we already mentioned Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. But songs that will be put in movies that are some of them are generational, but they're usually typical, not what I would call bubblegum pop. They're not sort of a flash in the pan thing. And usually they're not a flash in the pan because they're a little bit deeper, whether it's deeper in the lyrics, they tried something new in their melody structure, something like that. Second one, artistic intent. In other words, some songs are, a very simple concept, right? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, or something like that. But, and some of those songs can be popular. They're not usually my favorite, I usually like it when they're trying to say something meaningful, a little bit more than that, or they are trying to express something. Sometimes it is an emotion. Obviously, there's a lot of songs about love. Um, so sometimes they just capture it perfectly, whether that whether that's the music, whether that's the chorus, whether that's the verses, and best. It's honestly it's best if it's all of the above. You know, they just all the stars aligned on that song, and they created something that's special. Um, the obviously artistic identity. So some artists, like take Pink Floyd for example, or even Guster. I don't know if you've ever listened to Guster. Guster's a fairly modern band, but they're unique. Like some of their early albums, their drummer is not a typical drummer. He does the bongo drums, and they've got some really cool songs where and the drumming is just something unique about them that they tried and it worked.
How frequently do you listen? Do you listen every day, or how frequently do you listen?
I listen. No, not. I wouldn't say. Well, obviously, I have my library on my computer, so it's easy to listen often.
What about when you work out? Do you listen to music
I
when you work
when I work out, I usually will rotate. I'll do like 3 or 4 times where I'm just doing it. But if I have a new album, I will stop watching TV and I will just work out while listening to music. So yes, I do. But I kind of rotate through it. Sometimes I'm watching a good series on stuff. You know, like right now I'm watching Daredevil, which is pretty good. So, but then I will take a break because I do honestly I do collect new music. I'm always looking for good new bands. I'm always looking for new music. Um, so the last part about that is this artistic journey. I really am interested in like bands will progress through stages, and you know, like all these bands here, the Decemberists. A lot of times I'll focus on at least 3 stages of a band. What did they first do? What's their debut album? And is there anything special about that? What's their breakout album and why? Why was it a breakout album? And then is there any, what's their discography look like? And you know, what are their, at least their best albums? And if I really like them, then I'll get all their albums. But at least those 3 I'm interested in. Um, and there's some bands that really have quite an arc. You know, some bands take, you know, almost their entire career before they get a breakout album. It took them that long to kind of figure it out. Um, a lot of bands you'll notice have their 3rd album is their breakout album. It's like it takes 3 tries to kind of get it right. But I do like that too. I do like the artistic journey part. And you'll notice too, some bands like take 2 of the most famous, take the Eagles and the Beatles. They had 2 singer-songwriters. Actually, you could argue the Beatles had 3 because George Harrison was great too. But I mean, really, of course, McCartney and Lennon. But like, look at the Eagles. Eagles had Glenn Frey and Don Henley, and so Henley and Frey. Usually, again, that collaboration is a powerful creative force, but it's not just one person. And sometimes that's what a band does. Sometimes it's the collaboration of the band where, you know, the guitarist is doing a riff, or sometimes the drummer has a cool opening drum solo, or the singer with the lyrics. It's that collaboration that makes these things fun and interesting and often very creative. So I do think every band will go through this, the pursuit of musical greatness. Um, in fact, I think I'm a big person who believes in terms of chasing this muse of greatness. Even if you never get to it, it's kind of like, you know, they used to have this commercial in Air Force called Aim High. Well, why the hell would you ever aim low? Or why would you ever aim for mediocrity? But a lot of people do, because for whatever reason, they don't believe they have any talent. They don't believe they could do it. You know, they were criticized in middle school, whatever. But I do think you should always be striving for greatness. Maybe never get there. That's okay. Doesn't mean you don't strive for it. And of course, the great ones, all of them said this same thing. Of course, David Bowie. So you got so obviously you got 3 greats right there, right? Do you guys, you know who the middle guy? Well, it's a little bit cheating in there. The middle guy is Roger Waters. The bottom guy is, of course, Bob Dylan. Uh, Bowie, of course, talked about pushing the envelope, and Ziggy Stardust was certainly pushing the envelope. Waters always had a bent for, you know, deeper. Of course, he had a lot of political leanings, but also, you look at The Wall, he was definitely digging down philosophically. Another brick in the wall is not just a good song. He's talking about conformism and the whole factory style of schools, of course, criticizing it, but they definitely trying to do something with their music. I mean, look at Bob Dylan, famous for some of his songs against the war. He definitely captured the zeitgeist of the 60s and the protest movement and using his music to affect people's attitudes and beliefs, and a call to action.
Isn't Dark Side of the Moon one of the most sold? Is that one of the highest though?
Oh yeah.
That
Not only is it one of the highest ones, they say anytime there's a new audio format, that is the most album that people will buy immediately in the new format, as almost like judging if the new format is worthy. Yeah, as you know, that's a great album. So, The Craftsman's Path. When is music more than music? I do believe in passionately, even listening to your music. And a lot of people are passionate about music, and that is a great thing. But I think one of the things that is good is that it's like when you're doing creative writing, or even anything, even if you're trying to study for a test, the more modalities you can get into a task, the better, the more of a deeper impression that will make. So I do think, again, even in terms of music, don't just stop with, I listen to a song on the radio. Well, the radio is not even a thing anymore. I listen to a song on YouTube or whatever. I know for myself, it's more than that. What makes that song special? How could I try to emulate that? Whether it's singing, in of course singing, but also in playing an instrument, in obviously drawing the artists, in digging deep into looking at the other things that they've done, stuff like that. So it's sort of taking it from even just listening to music of a passive thing to a more active thing. And I'm making an analogy here to what the Japanese call Shinrin Yoku, which is forest bathing. It's almost like when you think of something like nature as being a very passive activity, I'm going out into nature. But forest bathing kind of takes that to a new level of like, no, you should immerse yourself in it on a regular basis. You should bathe in it. I don't know. I love that expression. It's kind of cool. And I think once you now step back over a lifetime doing this for 30, 40 years, you see this kind of does play out in the albums in my library. Obviously, I choose albums over singles. I choose songs that have deeper meaning, or at least try to, or concept albums. Artists over trends. In other words, I do like to follow the artists that I like and dig deep and collect more than just one of their CDs. And of course, complete catalogs over hits, same kind of scenario. So that's all part of digging deep. Oh wait, do you know where that? Obviously, that's again Morrison. Oh wait a minute, but you didn't guess this one. Who's this? And who's this drawing? Do you know? Any guess? So it does kind of say it above, but it's sort of faded. These are charcoal drawings that I did in high school. So it's actually pretty impressive, that as I'm 60 now, that they still look as good as you. Now they're framed.
Jethro Tull? Is it Jethro Tull?
Yes, it is Jethro Tull. Of course, the lead singer of that is Ian Anderson. And of course, I don't know if you can see that he has a flute there. He plays the flute. And again, another, when we talk about interesting things, artistic identity, you cannot mistake Jethro Tull music. It has a very distinctive thing. So, of course, because he played the flute, and not many people do. Alanis Morissette played the flute in one song in her hit album, but most people don't. Of course, you also see there, my little studio I have where I do try to play, and you don't really show it there, but there's even one of those floor beatbox things or floor things that you plug in and it can record snippets of your song and then you play it back, whether it's a beat or something. I'm still playing around with that. I haven't really mastered that.
Cool.
Yeah, I haven't come close, but it's even still fun to. In other words, like I can just pick up my acoustic guitar and start jamming, but it's different when you have the microphone. It's different when you have the microphone there. You can sing a lot softer. You don't have to belt things out. You can get a lot more nuance in your voice. So again, it opens up new avenues and new nuances to what you're trying to do. Kind of the same thing with electric guitar is different than an acoustic guitar. It gives you different sounds and a different feel to the playing. And again, I'm not an expert any shape or mean. I'm not a professional musician, but I enjoy it, and I enjoy to keep learning about it. And I plan on, there will be things that I have not learned when I die, but I will keep having it on the occasional burner and bring it back to the front and keep enjoying it and keep exploring it. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. So much of what we do, it's easy to look at things on their surface and go next, next, next. But you didn't give it a chance. You didn't dig into it. You didn't even try to pull apart the layers. You didn't even try to see any of the depth. There's a lot of depth in all of this. And you'll wring more enjoyment out of it if you pause and say, is there more to it? And if not, maybe it's the people you're listening to, because take classical music. I have to burn some of that. I didn't have it in my library yet, but I do have quite a few classical CDs also. And that's why classical music is that kind of stuff. You can listen to a piece in classical music your whole life and still be pulling out unique parts of it, after 20 years, after 30 years that you didn't really hear before. Because, of course, with a full orchestra, you can get a lot of layers, a lot of intricacy. So that's just sort of, think about it like these things are huge undiscovered countries. And it takes a while to sort of dig in and say, what's interesting about this? What is it? What does it mean? What is a great solo guitar? What's the difference between, say, Santana and the guy in Coldplay? The guy in Coldplay has some very simplistic, not even really solos. Santana, on the other hand, has he's an amazing lyrical guitarist, so much so that one of his most popular, it was not a breakout album because it was a breakout later in his career, a second or third breakout, kind of like John Travolta, where he teamed up with all those artists. He did the album called Supernatural, and it's an amazing thing. But not many guitarists can do that. Eric Clapton can do it. There's a few guitarists who can do it. Play with anybody, play to any style of music, and still add to it without overpowering it. That's very difficult.
I hate when they do like I'm sorry to cut in, but I hate when they do like a 10-minute solo guitar thing. You really have to be into the guitar to like listen to that shit. Because to me, it's like, all right, come on, man. I need to, something, some lyrics or something in there. When they're just playing and playing and playing, I'm like, shit. It's like sitting in somebody's garage and just, they're jamming or something.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So, so different things are good for different people. I mean, there are some famous ones like Freebird, right? But that's not 10 minutes, but it's It's 7-minute song, similar to Hotel California. Um, Now, Hotel California, though, if you listen to their guitar riffs, sometimes they do the dueling guitar things where it's not just one guitarist,
Yeah.
and that's kind of cool.
I was more referring to like when you're live, when you're at a concert or something, and they decide to do like the 20-minute fucking. Like, oh fuck! All right, is this over yet? Let's move on.
Now, that's a fair point. Again, now some people love that. Some people like when they do the really long sets. I'm kind of with you. I think that would probably get a little old for me, but yeah, I mean, so.
Yeah, well,
It's a good question though, and I'm not trying to talk about different tastes, because music is a personal thing, as well as you will be affected by your musical tastes based on what decade you were born in. Now, I will say, I do think it's important to sort of expand your mind a little bit. I definitely lean towards singing, melodies, lyricism, that kind of stuff. I'm not a fan of like rap, but I am willing to give some of it a little bit of a chance to see if it's, what's special about that. Um, but I will, so I'm not really, I do think all music has a certain amount of value, but there's a lot of it's personal and subjective too, in terms of, what most resonates with you, you know. And some people are very closed off. I don't recommend that either. Like some people, whatever decade they were born in, like dad, he's listening to the 50s music or whatever, and that's it. Everything else is garbage. So I don't recommend that. I think it is a little too easy to be closed off, because music is broader than that. So especially the great stuff, the stuff that, I mean, again, look at now. There's a lot of musicians that have spanned decades and decades. So.
Arrivederci.